The following is a presentation of the ACC Network, an exclusive production of Raycom Sports.
NC State and Syracuse have taken different roads to the same destination, the NCAA tournament bubble. Kevin Keith's Wolfpack spent most of the year in the top 25, but are now reeling after a recent losing streak proved historic for all the wrong reasons. Jim Boeheim's Orange must continue their strong ACC performance to overcome several head-scratching losses in non-conference play. Bubble teams collide next on Raycom Sports. We're in Raleigh, North Carolina for the only regular season meeting between the Syracuse Orange, the NC State Wolfpack, PNC Arena here in Raleigh on Raycom Sports. It is so great to have you with us for our game this evening. Tom Wormy, along with former Virginia standout Corey Alexander. Corey, both of these teams coming off wins, and we're about a month away from the New York Life ACC tournament down the road in Charlotte.
And that means we're a month away from Selection Sunday. A very important game for both these teams trying to solidify themselves in the field, just in case they're not the winners of the ACC tournament.
Couple of stars of the ACC on display tonight. Tyus Battle for the Orange and C.J. Bryce for NC State, the redshirt junior from Charlotte, their top scorer in ACC play.
And C.J. Bryce, very familiar with Kevin Keats, played 2 years for Coach Keats at UNC Wilmington, followed him here to Raleigh, and now starting to play the way that Coach Keats knew he would, coming here to be part of the Wolfpack.
And back to Tyus Battle. He's the focus of our innovative play brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Get slam dunk savings today. Visit Progressive.com.
Tyus Battle has found multiple ways to score for the Orange, and getting out in transition can be very important for he and his teammates tonight. As you see, Elijah Hughes finding Battle for the lob in transition. Turnovers and transition buckets are going to be important for Syracuse. Tyus Battle, one of the best in the ACC, turning defense into offense, and at 6'6", able to use a strong physical body just to bump off defenders and finish at the rim.
The teams played a season ago at the Carrier Dome. NC State went on the road and got the win 74-70. Moments away from the opening tip, the Orange in the pack on Raycom Sports.
ACC basketball is being brought to you by Geico, saving people money for over 75 years. By Gatorade, win from within. By your Carolina Ford dealers. By Bojangles, it's bow time. And by CPI Security, official security partner of the ACC.
Back inside PNC Arena, NC State and Syracuse. Their 7th meeting as ACC opponents. They have split the previous 6. Orange going on the road after the win against Boston College on Saturday. NC State coming off a win at Pittsburgh. Beverly passed in tight quarters. Dorn can't get it over the front rim, and the Orange able to save it.
And although NC State unable to score in that possession, that was a great offensive opportunity for the Wolfpack. Torin Dorn get a point-blank look, just unable to finish it, but Kevin Keats will love that type of offense if they can get it all night.
17-7, the record for both teams. Brissett leaning in, well defended as they collapse down on Brissett. He's got 3 straight double-doubles as he enters tonight's action. Dorn slashing baseline. Got met in midair by Brissett. The foul is called. Time for the Food Lions starting lineups. We mentioned O'Shea, Brissett, number 11 for the Orange. Working on that double-double string. And for NC State, Torin Dorn, leading scorer and rebounder for the Wolfpack this season. Almost 14 points per game and 7 boards.
You mentioned Brissett. He made it very easy for us to calculate his rebound average over the last 3 games. Identical 12 rebound games in his last 3. And he's done a much better job of attacking the basket, going to the rim, in comparison to floating around, shooting the threes, where I think he can be effective, but he's much more effective attacking the paint.
Brissett had 12 points, 12 boards. At home against Boston College, this is Hughes. Got his own miss, put it back up on the rim. That won't fall, but he's going to the free throw line for Elijah Hughes.
And I believe that foul is going to be on Torin Dorn. And Dorn, of course, going to have to stay out of foul trouble in this one, with Eric Lockett missing in this game.
Hall of Famer Jim Boeheim on that Syracuse bench, 43rd season for the 73-year-old. Across the way it is Kevin Keats. Second season, he's 16 and 13. 16 and 14 in ACC play for Keats. And he won his only meeting as a head coach against the Orange last season at the Dome. Markel Johnson's got the ball right now, a key factor in that game, including a late three-pointer to seal it for the Wolfpack. Offensive foul is called. It was Bryce on the drive. There's a Syracuse player shaken up behind the play.
Yeah, Elijah Hughes on the ground after he took the charge, but after the block shot, and you see Hughes was actually in the restricted area.
First foul against C.J. Bryce. Averages almost 14 points per game in ACC play. Tops on the roster. This is Battle. And Battle got bumped and fouled.
And the game has been physical. And of course, you've also had 2 free throws on both ends and missed in this game. So you're seeing both teams actually struggling to score in the first minute and a half, but starting to rack up the fouls early.
Syracuse beat Boston College on Saturday 67-56. They went 7 of 18 from long distance, 39%. Brissett stepping under but traveling. NC State will be without Eric Lockett tonight, tending to a personal matter, so he not available for the Wolfpack this evening.
As well as Blake Harris, backup point guard. So the NC State really with 8 players available in this game. And of course, the strength of Kevin Keats' team is in numbers. He likes to use his bench, but the bench will be much shorter, a little bit lesser rotation in this one.
79-76, the win at Pittsburgh on Saturday. The miss in tight from Wyatt Walker. Great fake, but couldn't finish the play.
And NC State, once again, a great look, just unable to finish it, but give Tupu a tremendous amount of credit with that one. And Syracuse comes up with another turnover.
Walker made the play defensively. Beverly rattles out. Chukwu has the rebound of the miss from C.J. Bryce. Now remember, the last time NC State was in this building at home against Virginia Tech, they could only muster 24 points in a losing effort.
I'm sure there's so many people listening right now that are so happy that you reminded them of that.
Well, you know what happens when you talk about that kind of thing. Teams start to score, Corey Alexander.
Okay, that's how you remove the jinx. Well, an easy transition layup for NC State.
Hey, I'm just here to provide some historical perspective, that's all. Howard just beyond the free throw line. It's too strong. Frank Howard has struggled recently for the Orange. This is Dorn, tried to kick it out. Foul will be called. And it'll be against the Orange. Elijah Hughes.
Well, this is the way that NC State wants to play. Turnovers leading to transition opportunities. Nice pass from Dorn to Bryce for the easy bucket. And Kevin Keats would be more than happy if his offense could just rely on that the entire game. I'm sure that won't be the case, but Syracuse has helped NC State turning the basketball over early. 3 turnovers already for the Orange.
DJ Funderburg, where's number 0 for NC State is in. It's Johnson coming out of that corner for 3.
And that's a great sign for the Wolfpack. In my opinion, only in my opinion, the most important member of the Wolfpack, Markel Johnson, and he's playing more minutes now since he's returned from injury, missed 3 games. But they need his production for him to get back to being the ACC leading assist guy like he was a season ago.
Johnson got to double digits at Pittsburgh with 10 points, made 3 threes. Shot clock to 3 for the Orange, and Hughes. Side rim to Dorn. Dorn spins away from pressure, lost the handle. Howard, not Bethel.
That's a big bucket. You talked about the Orange needing Frank Howard's offense and his leadership to get them going. He struggled a bit at times there over the last few games, only averaging about 20 minutes or so recently. So a good sign for Syracuse knocking that down. We have to mention the Orange actually 3-0 in this building. Since they've come into the ACC, they have not lost at PNC Arena. So very comfortable as Frank Howard gets even more comfortable with the back-to-back opportunities, unable to finish on that one.
Now, 2 years ago, the Orange won in this building in overtime, 100-93, and John Gillen had 43 points, a PNC Arena record. Dorn misses mid-range and to battle.
Tom, you mentioned that game. Actually, it was a 29 three-pointers made between both teams in that game. We haven't seen that type of start here in this one.
How about Hughes? Got the angle off the backboard.
I really like the fact that Elijah Hughes is diversifying his game, not just a three-point shooter, but taking advantage of the opportunities to get to the rim. Teams are going to run him off the three-point line because he shoots it so well. Has to be able to add that into his repertoire.
Hughes, the transfer from East Carolina. Redshirt junior in the lineup for the Orange and averaging 14 points per game. Beverly catch and release. And he hits it for three.
And Braxton Beverly has been shooting a hot basketball recently. Now 10 of his last 15 threes. Since, of course, going over against Virginia Tech.
Beverly did hit that game-winning buzzer beater January 24th on this court against Clemson. One of the more exciting moments of the season in the ACC.
And great ball movement by the Wolfpack. All for the help. And when you find this guy in the corner, you can count.
Back in Raleigh, time for our Carolina Ford dealers keys to the game with Corey Alexander.
And for Syracuse, it's going to be protect the offensive glass. NC State, one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the ACC, going after 37% of their missed shots. And for NC State, it's simply about the man in the middle. When you play against Syracuse in this zone, you have to have a playmaker in the middle who's also capable of making shots. NC State feels as though they have a number of different players they can throw in the mix and make things happen in the middle of that zone.
A couple of three-pointers made by the Pack so far. One from Beverly, one from Johnson. Helms and Daniels have come into the lineup for NC State.
And one of the things you've seen more recently with the Orange is Buddy Boeheim getting minutes and putting Tyus Battle at the point guard position as we see O'Shea Brissett attacking the rim once again. And Brissett has a mismatch regardless as to who's guarding him at 6'8", and the strength that he has when he gets his shoulders pointing toward the basket, he's going to be hard to stop.
Prior to that Brissett basket, Syracuse had been shooting just 29% from the floor in the early going. Buddy Boeheim wearing number 35, same number his dad wore in the 1960s as a player at Syracuse.
Wait, you mean they didn't retire that number?
Not yet. They just might 3 years from now. We'll see.
Okay, so they hang it up. Then whose jersey is it? Is it Buddy's or is it Jim?
It'll say Boeheim over it. And that'll solve all your issues. NC State builds the lead to three. Helms with his first bucket of the ball game just in.
And interesting to see Buddy Boeheim actually in this game. When the Orange played Virginia Tech, Buddy Boeheim was coming off of a 4 3-pointer performance, but didn't play until the game was out of hand because of the defensive pressure by Virginia Tech. NC State applies very similar pressure, if not tougher, but Coach Boeheim trusting his son against that defensive pressure in this one.
Foul with 2 seconds on the shot clock with Hughes on the drive.
And for NC State, we talked about the man in the middle. And on the previous possession, you see Helms getting his opportunity in the middle working, and if he gets his hands on the basketball, he can make a play, and it's also about being able to make the mid-range jumper. Syracuse will give that, and Helms coming in, knocking down in one of his first possessions.
Elijah Hughes at the free throw line, 75% from the stripe on the season for Hughes. Redshirt junior from Beacon, New York, 6'6" and 215 pounds. What an addition he has been in the starting lineup for every game this season for the Orange.
Yeah, he's been a pleasant surprise for the Orange. His ability to shoot the basketball, but also a veteran presence and a very good rebounder. course, which you have to have on the back of that zone.
Nobody's attempted more three-pointers in the ACC than Elijah Hughes, as Beverly is off the mark.
This is the area right here. Now you're taking Ty's battle and you're making him the point guard, making him handle this pressure against NC State as well as the traps. Kevin Keith's going to go after Syracuse with battle at the point guard position, but you see Dolezaj doing a great job attacking the rim once again, not settling on the perimeter.
First lead of the ball game for the Orange. Marek Dolezaj averages just over 3 points per game. Did have 7 points and 5 boards, 3 assists in the win against Boston College. Battle thought he had knocked it away, but it's a foul.
And Mark Dolezaj known for his playmaking ability, but right now he's making a play for himself, attacking the rim, able to finish through the contact.
In Pittsburgh for NC State, a brutal stretch. The comeback falls short against Virginia in overtime. 24 points against Virginia Tech. And then they surrender 113 points to North Carolina, the most in the history of the rivalry between the Pack and the Heels.
And Tom, when you look at that, that was a Braxton Beverly three-pointer away from being a 5-game losing streak. Because, of course, they lost to Louisville right before that. They beat Clemson and then lose to 3 straight. So a very important game here for NC State and Syracuse both, but for NC State, in order to make sure they can get back to 500 in ACC play, they have a very favorable schedule coming down the stretch. As they continue to go to now, they have the opportunity to play some of the teams that haven't played as well in ACC play.
Just in front of the shot clock, the miss and the rebound by Hughes. NC State will be at Duke on Saturday. Beat them last year here at PNC Arena, 96-85. NC State in that win at Pittsburgh had built a 14-point lead before the Panthers got back in the game. But in speaking to Kevin Keats prior to the game, very proud of the way his team responded in light of the 3-game stretch that we just documented to you.
Well, and that's probably the most important part about it. When things aren't going well, it's often easy to hang your head and just say, okay, well, it's not our night. So I'm sure Coach Keats very proud of his team for persevering in that game. And again, Pittsburgh beat Louisville at home. They beat Florida State at home. They have great wins in their building, so that's a very good win for the Wolfpack. And you see now that pressure even more so, but Syracuse much more comfortable with Frank Howard back in the ball game, handling the basketball against C.J. Bryce. Bryce, a good defender, but he's not going to be able to put the level of pressure on the point guard that would be a Markel Johnson.
Both of these teams made it to the NCAA tournament a season ago. Big game on the resume tonight. Shot by Battle was up on the cylinder.
Oh, wait a minute. They actually called that. The officials in this game doing a great job checking that out. We had a controversy last night. We're at the LSU-Kentucky game where a blatant.
Very close call.
No, it wasn't close.
No.
That wasn't close. The ball was in the cylinder. Hand over top of the basket. That should not have counted. Should have been an overtime game.
Walker misses in close. Dolezaj comes over the top of the board, but loses control out of bounds under his own basket.
Of course, we don't have those issues in the ACC. Great crew tonight. Brian Dorsey, John Gaffney, Doug Sermon. So, you know, that's SEC problems. We don't have to worry about that right now.
The Orange with a 1-point lead. 10:33 to go in our first half of play. So glad that you're with us on Raycom Sports, celebrating 37 years of broadcasting ACC basketball. We're headed to the New York Life ACC tournament in Charlotte in just a few weeks. Walker after some nifty passing by the Pack.
A great pass from Helms, a touch pass to get the ball to Walker. And NC State doing a great job executing exactly what they worked on in shoot-around this morning. And more importantly, not turning the ball over against the zone.
Brissett tries the save. Was knocked away from Battle. Players all over the court. Brissett took a spill. He's slow to get up. Helms came out of nowhere to knock it away. Of course, the save by Brissett was right under his own basket. which normally you would say you try to avoid.
Well, you're absolutely right when it comes to that. You don't want to save it, but it was touched by a Syracuse player, so therefore he was trying to get it back in bounds to his team. It was back on defense.
In the midst of all that, there was a second personal foul called on Tyus Battle, so because of that, he has gone to the orange bench. That was deflected by Hughes, who came out to challenge the shot from Daniels. Howard flips it to the corner. It's Hughes. Boeheim goes to the court with Daniels. Held ball situation, and it's an orange arrow.
But a great play by Buddy Boeheim, getting in the mix, unable to come up with the rebound, but by getting his hands on the basketball, retains possession for the orange. And we just saw basketball fast break in 2019. Frank Howard, 2 feet from the basket, kicks out for Elijah Hughes for the 3. That's the way the game is played now, Wormy.
You saw that Battle hasn't scored yet so far, Corey. He averages almost 18 points per game for the Orange, 5th best in the conference.
You know, and when they take Frank Howard out of the game and force Tyus Battle to play the point guard position, it takes away from his scoring ability, forcing him to be more of a playmaker. But this is where O'Shea Brissett does his damage on the offensive glass, but that time unable to finish, and picks up the foul on the damage, his 2nd foul. Jim Boeheim right now seeming as though he's going to trust his sophomore, keep him on the court with the 2 fouls.
Orange forced 18 turnovers against Boston College, scored 25 points off of those turnovers, and won 67-56 against the Eagles to sweep the season series from BC, which posted a win last night against Pittsburgh. Moving around the perimeter. Walker cuts to the basket for 2. And it was Bryce that found him.
And a great pass by Bryce, but a missed opportunity there by Dolezaj. If he would have just stepped up and taken the charge, that play wouldn't have counted. He was been able to take the opportunity away from the Orange.
Entry pass, Brissett. Kicked it back out to Boeheim. That one misses the intended target. Beverly has the same issue at the other end. Dorn hustled in there, had the position, and the foul's going against the Orange.
One thing you cannot do versus Syracuse is throw soft passes. NC State whipping the basketball around the perimeter, great ball movement, creating a gap for C.J. Bryce to attack and drop off another dime. As NC State has done a great job sharing the basketball, especially in the paint.
Stolen inbounds pass. Hughes. He's up there for the jam.
Speaking of soft passes, that was a perfect example of one that you cannot throw versus Syracuse. Now Jalen Carey getting into the mix. Jim Boeheim going a little deeper into his bench than he has majority of ACC play.
That's Dorn. The iron very friendly to Dorn here at PNC Arena.
You know, and when you look at the zone, with Dolezaj at the center position in comparison to Chukwu, that makes those mid-range shots a little bit easier.
Johnson ahead of the field for the slam. And it got started on this end of the floor by the defending of Bryce against Battle, who's back in the lineup with 2 personals. He lost the handle. Johnson might have poked that one away.
Dorn lost the shoe. 4 on 5, doesn't matter for Braxton Beverly. Unable to finish, but the offensive rebounding ability of Wyatt Walker, really a threat for the Wolfpack.
Jalen carries into the game for the Orange, number 5. Hughes misses, and Brissett is going to pick up his 3rd personal.
Wyatt Walker, offensive rebounding, and maybe a little quarterback finding Markel Johnson for the slam. NC State by 5.
Time now for Sling TV, slinging it.
And Wyatt Walker playing his best quarterback impression, slinging it all the way down court to Markel Johnson, who finishes off with the highlight level slam.
Watch college hoops on Sling TV for only $25 per month at slingtv.com.
Sling TV, great commercials, by the way. In case you haven't been checking them out, great commercials. Karen from Will and Grace.
Commercials?
Well, I watch all commercials. That's what I pretty much pay attention to.
1-1 situation for NC State. Right before we went to break, O'Shea Brissett picked up his 3rd personal foul. Battle also has 2 for the Orange, and because of that, Brissett a spectator at the moment.
I believe he'll have to sit the remaining 7-17. You don't want to take away his aggressiveness in the second half, which is already will be the case. And you see Tyus Battle back at that point guard position. Jalen Carey off the basketball. And we'll see if Battle can be aggressive with the ball in his hands. Pulls up and is able to knock down a 2. The officials will check that at the next break. But counted a 2 in live action.
And John Gaffney pointed at the scorer's table. Knocked away. Carey can't run it down and take it away from Johnson. Shot clock is inside of 10 for NC State. Beverly. Oh, net for Beverly.
He doesn't need much time. He doesn't need much space. And as the zone shifts, Braxton Beverly catching the basketball back, locked and loaded, and ready to fire as soon as it touches his hands.
8 points now for Beverly. Couple of 3-pointers.
Tyus Battle seeing Beverly on him, knows that he can get to his shot. And you see Chris passing on the perimeter once again. Braxton Beverly just relocates as Tyus Battle is helping in the zone. Just too much space for Braxton Beverly as he's knocked down his 2nd 3-pointer on the evening.
Beverly made 5 3-pointers on 9 chances at Pittsburgh on Saturday and had 17 points in 32 minutes of action. He did pick up his 1st personal foul with Battle at the free throw line. Tyus Battle, 2nd in the conference in free throws made. He's got 3 points and 107 made free throws. Can get to the line. 3rd in attempts in the ACC.
Great size for a guard, handles the basketball a lot for Syracuse, and attacks the rim, especially when he gets his opportunities in transition, often forcing the officials to make a call in his favor.
Shot clock to 5. Dorn ran into Battle, missed the shot. Hughes up high for the rebound. Battle hits the front rim. Tip to Johnson. Rice trying to gather. Carey skips it ahead to Battle. Leaves it for Hughes on the 3-ball. Well short. Sidibe could not save it. Sent it right to Dorn. Dorn couldn't handle the pass back from Beverly. Dolezaj saves it from the seat of his pants.
It's a little helter-skelter right now. Jalen Carey for the 3 in the corner, unable to finish. And right now, both coaches is happy there's a dead ball in the action, so both their teams will calm down.
Catch your breath. The Pack and the Orange running up and down the court. NC State by 7, 5:05 to go in the first half. Tom Wormy, Corey Alexander, our outstanding Raycom Sports ACC basketball production crew with you from Raleigh.
Frank Howard back into the game. Up front with Jalen Carey. Tyus Battle actually going to get a break, playing with those 2 fouls. Elijah Hughes also taking a break as Braswell is spelling him. So Jim Boeheim, this is probably the most I've seen Jim Boeheim go into his rotation.
Braswell has not seen the court in the last 4 games, but he's in there now with a couple of players in foul trouble. That was Braswell over top of Funderburk and a foul against the Orange.
But Tom, you see how much pressure NC State puts on your defense with their ability to attack the offensive glass. They're all over the glass every time the shot goes up, and this will make they're going to have a hand in the matter.
76% from the line on the season for DJ Funderburk. Richard, sophomore from Cleveland, Ohio. Here's a message from CPI Security.
Proud to be ACC basketball's official security partner. For more information, go to our website at mycpi.com.
Funderburk, the transfer from Ohio State, also played some prep ball at Hargrave Military Academy, Chatham, Virginia, where Kevin Keats won a couple of national titles as a coach there.
Yeah, as well as
coach
Braxton Beverly. Hargrave could be the NC State minor league program right now. You got a number of guys. Of course, Kevin Keats, as you mentioned, and then was the head coach there. So strong ties to the Hargrave program.
And Coach Keats had 2 different stints as the head coach of that program. Daniels twisting. He's got the basket and foul.
Devin Daniels getting inside the paint, does a great job absorbing the contact and, more importantly, moving the basketball around Sidibe, and the concentration, able to finish, and the opportunity for the and one. Jim Boeheim trying to have a conversation with Doug Sermons regarding the contact on the other end of the floor that didn't get called, but yet the call on this end, and it comes back as C.J. Bryce with the small bump on Ty's Battle picks up a foul. But John Gaffney now having a conversation with Jim Boeheim. Too far away to hear it, but I think it was similar to saying that's enough. We're not going to listen to so much more.
Second foul on C.J. Bryce.
The conversation between Boeheim and Doug Sermon continues. And right now, Coach Boeheim not happy about the way he feels that this game has been called thus far.
His team is 8-3 in conference play. Knocked away by Johnson, and then Howard tried to impede the progress of Markel Johnson, who is slow to get up.
Yeah, Markel Johnson with a great defensive play, but the damage could have been done more so. You see that left ankle on that play as he reaches down to grab it.
Johnson missed 3 games earlier this season, as Corey mentioned, with a back injury in the home game against Pittsburgh. So he missed those 3 games, but does average over 11 points per game for the Wolfpack. Our coverage of ACC basketball being broadcast on AFN, the American Forces Network. We welcome the men and women of the U.S. Army, Air Force, Navy, Coast Guard, and Marines stationed around the world. So proud to have you with us, and we hope you're enjoying the broadcast.
Johnson missing 2 free throws. You see Gimpy running back down the floor. Seems as though he may be looking for a sub, but NC State down to 8 players right now. We talked about no Blake Harris and no Eric Lockett as Battle's able to knock down the mid-range jumper. And all 8 players for NC State have scored to this point, and I can't imagine anyone would believe that Syracuse has actually played more players in this game than NC State. But although NC State still holds a 10-point lead here in the first half. Win in ACC play. Miami trying to hold on over Clemson at home, and Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech knotted up in the rematch between those 2 teams. Virginia Tech escaping with a 52-49 win earlier in the year at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech keeping it close in Blacksburg.
Don't forget, Miami took North Carolina to overtime at the Dean Dome, and Florida State rolling, Corey. You mentioned they've won 5 in a row. Chris Kumaji has 20 points and 11 boards in that game.
And Kumaji just had his first double-figure ACC game this season last weekend, so now he's starting to come into his own as this Florida State team continues to get better and better as the season's going along.
And Florida State last week posted a win at the Dome against this Orange program, which responded with a win for Coach Boeheim against Boston College on Saturday.
You know, we talked earlier in the broadcast about Syracuse and their NCAA tournament opportunities and regimens. They haven't, other than the win at Duke, which was a great win, but losing at home to Clemson. Although they have 8 wins in ACC play, the teams that they've beat, they've got 2 wins against Boston College, who's kind of at the bottom of the league. They've got a win against Miami. They haven't beaten the top-tier teams outside of the win at Duke in ACC play. That's why this game becomes so important, because as NC State is one of those teams, NC State is in a better situation, even though they have a lesser ACC record, they're in a better situation to get an at-large bid in the NCAA tournament right now than Syracuse. Syracuse needs wins against quality ACC opponents.
NC State is 5-6 in conference play, 2-3 at home against ACC opponents. Syracuse strong on the road in the ACC, 4-1. Carry down the lane, creating contact. Funderburk was in the vicinity, and he'll be assessed the personal. Second on Funderburk. Syracuse to the free throw line for Jalen Carey. Freshman from the Bronx, New York, and 65% from the line this season. Here's a message from CPI Security.
CPI Security is proud to be ACC basketball's official security partner. For more information, go to our website at mycpi.com.
For tonight, Jalen Carey, in his last 10 games, as he gets 1 of 2, had scored just 2 points, and 3 did not participate.
But Jalen Carey better suited for this game. We mentioned Buddy Boeheim, who did not play against Virginia Tech until late. Jalen Carey actually got the call earlier in that game because of his ability to handle the basketball versus pressure. So now he and Tyus Battleman the backcourt with Franklin Howard on the bench. And Carey is a big-time scorer. Tough shot right there. But he's a guy that can put up points in a hurry.
Foul against the Pack, and it's Helms.
I'm not sure why there's much of a boo or disagreement on that call. Helms pretty much gave Dolezaj the forearm shiver going out of the basket, and you see that right arm extend. Maybe Dolezaj, I got to give Dolezaj, maybe he gets a little more for the acting job on that one.
10 turnovers in the first half for NC State. Battle trying to get free of Daniels, who had him locked down. Howard is open straight away for 3. Ripping the ropes. Frank Howard, he's got 6.
And Frank Howard now with his second three-pointer and the big basket for the Orange coming back in. Howard had a couple turnovers that Jim Boeheim didn't appreciate, so took him out of the game. But I like the way the senior responded coming back in.
Howard was just 1 of 9 from the floor against Boston College on Saturday. Another turnover. Dolezaj to the rim. Walker met him there, but also got a piece of Marek Dolezaj.
We saw Markel Johnson turn his ankle earlier, and a very good defender, and you see a little indecision right now. Doesn't seem to be moving very well on that ankle. We talked about him missing time earlier in the year, missed 3 games. And one of those games was the game that they actually lost on the road at Wake Forest without Markel Johnson in the lineup, which is probably the worst loss this season for NC State.
Despite the miss on the second free throw by Dolezaj, an 8-0 Syracuse run. Dorn missed it. Dolezaj had the ball, but also caught a shot in the face there. Walker has picked up his second foul quickly.
See off the offensive rebound. Dolezaj going to get it. And Walker going across the face as it comes down. And I'm glad the officials aren't going over to look at this one. And I'm all for checking the monitor, but great job by this officiating crew knowing that there was nothing malicious on that play.
So Dolezaj right back to the free throw line. This is just attempt number 23 on the season for Dolezaj, who shoots 55% from the line for the sophomore from Slovakia. And again, he goes 1 for 2 at the stripe.
Time NC State started off the basketball game, moving the basketball very well, sharing it. But they've had 5 turnovers in the last 2.5 minutes, which has allowed Syracuse to get back within 1 possession of this game.
NC State led by as many as 12. The Orange have cut the lead to 3. Dorn, second chance. Howard went forward against Johnson. It is off of Johnson, and Orange basketball.
And the fans here unhappy. They want the foul on Frank Howard going after that one. And there was a lot of contact on that possession. I believe the fans here have a right to be bothered by that one, especially after you consider the foul that Helms got earlier, and it turns into a bucket on this end of the floor for Howard.
8 points now for Frank Howard, who scored just 3 against BC on Saturday. The run's up to 11-0 and close to 3 minutes for the Orange. They close the gap to 1.
Another trap along the baseline, another turnover. Oh, Brian Dorsey says that was tipped on the way out. Tyus Battle, I'm sure, didn't think that was the case. If Tyus Battle had a chance to pick that basketball up, I'm sure he felt as though it wasn't tipped. Otherwise, he would have tried to probably made a better effort to get to that and go to the other end of the floor.
Plenty of action coming up on Raycom Sports on Saturday. Check your local listings. Shot clock was down to 4. We're inside of a minute to play in this half. Dolezaj picks up the foul. Coming up on the Hardy's halftime report, we preview the first meeting between Duke and North Carolina, which will be brought to you by Raycom Sports, in addition to sizing up the stretch run of the ACC. All that plus highlights and stats. The Hardy's halftime report from Raleigh, North Carolina.
We've had some fun in the ACC this week thus far. Monday night, Virginia at North Carolina. Great showdown there. And then for those who stayed up a little later last night to watch Duke come back from 23 down at Louisville. So leave there with the win.
Incredible finish to that one. What a final 10 minutes the Blue Devils played to win it in regulation. Battle trying to lacerate that defense for the Pack. They got it to the corner somehow. Howard missed. Sidibe had it knocked away. Johnson waiting for reinforcements. There's only about a second difference or so between game and shot. And so Kevin Keats will call a timeout. There's 19.9 on the game clock and 20 on the shot clock.
And right now, with that bit of a difference in the shot clock, you can take the last shot. You probably want to go with about 5 or 6 seconds remaining. Get it up on the glass, and as good as the offensive rebounding team that North Carolina State is, give themselves a chance, and if they don't make it, get an opportunity for a second chance bucket.
Coming up a week from tonight, the greatest rivalry in all of collegiate athletics. Duke and North Carolina. Duke, fresh off the amazing comeback win against Louisville. Their fabulous trio of freshmen will get their first look at the Blue Devils' biggest rival. Despite that last-minute loss to Virginia, North Carolina playing its best basketball of the season. Freshman Kobe White continues to impress in Chapel Hill. Tim Brando, Mike Jaminski on the call. Be sure to tune in 9 p.m. Eastern next Wednesday for the rivalry that is North Carolina and Duke. So they adjusted the clock slightly. 21.3 on the game clock.
Still an opportunity for NC State to get the last shot of the half. Try to maintain this lead going into halftime.
Orange with a late 11-0 run. A 1-point cut the lead to a single point. This is Johnson. Cut off. Dorn misses. Dolezaj the rebound. And the clock runs out in the first half. The late surge by the Orange after NC State had led by as many as 12 in the first 20 minutes.
And give Syracuse a lot of credit for sticking with it and not turning the basketball over, taking advantage of NC State's turnover to make it a ball game at halftime.
ACC basketball is being brought to you by Geico, saving people money for over 75 years. By Food Lion, official supermarket of the ACC. by your local Chevy dealers. And by Lending Tree, official loan shopping partner of the ACC.
This is the Hardee's halftime report. Try the new Angus Thick Burger Melts at Hardee's because it tastes better. Inside PNC Arena on Raycom Sports 30-27, the NC State lead. Tom and Corey courtside with you. And the momentum later in that first half, Corey swung towards the Orange. Brissett had to go to the bench, but the Orange, they stood up, made an 11-0 run, and 4.5 minutes without a field goal to close out the half for NC State.
Well, and 12 turnovers for NC State in the first half as well. So that's one of the areas where they really struggled. Got off to a great start, moving the ball inside that zone. But really, Syracuse took away those opportunities as we got later into the first half.
Well, it's already been an incredible week in the ACC, and it's only Wednesday, Corey Alexander. How about Kyle Guy on Monday night for Virginia? And what a win it was for the Cavaliers.
And Kyle Guy's ability to shoot the basketball on the move was a difference maker at the end of the game. 2 huge three-pointers for the junior, and coming up with a big opportunity to knock down the three and the and one opportunity, finishing it off in Carolina. Kobe White continued his great play, but Kyle Guy's 20 points, shooting 5 for 9 from 3, was a difference maker for the Hoos in Chapel Hill.
69-61 was the final there. And then on Tuesday, the monumental comeback. Number 2 Duke and number 16 Louisville.
And Louisville up 23. And then turnovers after turnovers after turnovers led to transition opportunities for the Blue Devils. You saw Trey Jones come up with the steal and the finish, R.J. Barrett with the finish, and R.J. Barrett once again finishing at the rim. But Zion Williamson was a difference maker once again in this game. Offensive rebounding and tremendous on the glass. Cam Reddish, big threes, time and time again at the end of that game, and a huge comeback for the Blue Devils.
How about 9 turnovers by Louisville in the last 10 minutes? And Duke comes all the way back to win the largest regulation comeback victory in the final 10 minutes in NCAA history. They come back and win the game 71-69. At halftime, NC State has the lead, thanks in part to Braxton Beverly, deep 3 on the Hardee's halftime report. Coming up Saturday, an ACC doubleheader. We'll start with North Carolina looking to bounce back from a tough loss to Virginia. Heels in Winston-Salem to take on Wake Forest on Raycom Sports. After that, some will see 4th-ranked Virginia taking on Notre Dame. Others will have Florida State squaring off with Georgia Tech. TheACC.com. Check it out for station and streaming information. Select games also streaming on the ACC mobile app. Full slate of action on Saturday on Raycom Sports. Frank Howard led the way in the first half of the Orange. He had 8 points, 3 of 6 shooting on the Hardee's halftime report.
They're going to play center field. They're not going to put any pressure on Lige to take the ball in bounds.
They're now putting pressure on Gillum.
Oh, we got a double team though on him.
Leiden. Kick out. The 3. Battle got it for the win. Tyus Battle knocks it down. And Syracuse wins it at the buzzer.
Justin Kutcher and G-Man on the call. Tyus Battle, welcome to the ACC moment, one of the many brought to you in the last 37 years by Raycom Sports as we celebrate broadcasting ACC basketball. You know, Tyus Battle also hit a big shot, a game-winning shot against Georgetown at the Dome this season. So he did it his freshman year, done it his junior year, and he and his teammates went on an 11-0 run late in that first half.
Well, Tyus Battle looking to get back into the NCAA tournament, and of course for him, they're going to have to ride him because he's the guy that really gets them going, whether it's off his playmaking or his scoring ability. You see Battle getting into the middle of the paint and finishing, and then you see what Syracuse was able to do against NC State later in the half was forced turnovers. 12 turnovers from NC State allowed Syracuse to get off to an 11-0 run. Frank Howard able to finish in the paint once again, and part of the reason they were able to get back into this game.
The Orange, though, shot just 31% as a team in the first half. The Pack, 37%. We thank you for watching the Hardee's halftime report. Second half action between NC State and Syracuse in just a moment.
ACC basketball is being brought to you by your local Toyota dealers. Toyota, let's go places. By Hardee's. By Progressive Insurance. And by First Citizens Bank.
30-27 on Raycom Sports. NC State leading the visiting Syracuse Orange. NC State went on the road at the Dome last season and won the matchup between the teams. 2 years ago, it was Syracuse in overtime right here at PNC Arena. Numbers from the first half, and despite that 31%, the late surge by the Orange to cut that lead to 3. At one point, Corey, they had cut the NC State lead to just 1 in the first half.
Well, NC State built that lead. You see the points in the paint. They were able to have great ball movement inside the paint early in the game, but then the 13 points off turnovers in Syracuse's favor really allowed them to get back into it, as you mentioned, at the end of the first half.
Kevin Keats and the Wolfpack, 3 of 12 from long distance.
And we watched NC State work on this in shoot-around this morning, sharing the basketball in the paint. Great job, and not only touching the paint off the pass, but also the dribble penetration by C.J. Bryce, finding Walker for the easy layup. And again, swinging around the perimeter as the zone constricts, knocking down the 3-ball. Corner pocket, we saw Markel Johnson hit one. We saw Braxton Beverly hit a couple in the first half. NC State has been able to operate very well on the offensive end of the floor when they haven't turned the basketball over. 12 turnovers has hampered the Wolfpack in the first half.
Just 2 points for Torrin Dorn. He was 1 of 6 from the floor. You mentioned Beverly. His 10 points, Corey, leads all scorers. He's the only player in our game in double figures. And that's with those 2 3-pointers, and Beverly was 4 for 4 from the free throw line. The Pack will have the ball as we crank up the second half. Tom Wormy, Corey Alexander, our outstanding Raycom Sports ACC basketball production crew with you from Raleigh.
And Wormy, interesting change. Sidibe actually gets to start in the second half in comparison to Tupu, who started the game for Syracuse, and we see another turnover right off the bat for NC State. And C.J. Bryce, a little gimpy coming up out of that. As you see, Sidibe stepping in, does a great job, but look at the left ankle of Bryce coming down on Sidibe's foot. A little gimpy. He'll stay in the game, but you can see he's favoring that ankle.
Rama Sidibe, who played just 1 minute in their most recent game against Boston College and did not attempt a shot. Did not play at all in the game against Florida State.
And watch C.J. Bryce laying for an opportunity to pick up offensive foul. O'Shea Brissett, 3 fouls in the first half. Starts the second half. Missing the shot, but I'm sure that's one of the things that he's actually thinking about. And you see Bryce having to defend and guarding Brissett. And Bryce is not moving very well right now. He's favoring that ankle. Kevin Keats and his staff, I'm sure, are going to keep an eye on that.
Sidibe punishing the rim.
And a great play by Brissett. And again, I'm sure Kevin Keats told his team, O'Shea Brissett has 3 fouls. If he's coming to the basket, step up and take a charge. Brissett under control, finding Sidibe in the paint. More importantly, not picking up that offensive foul.
And with that jam, Rama Sidibe is at his season average as he kicks that one all the way to Jim Boeheim. Sidibe averages 1.9 points per game.
But look at the nice play by Brissett to not pick up the offensive foul. And Sidibe, recognizing his man leaves and has the opportunity to get an easy 2. Sidibe definitely played soccer growing up. After that kick, and we know Braxton Beverly played a lot of basketball because you don't just shoot the ball like that when you first pick it up.
13 points for Braxton Beverly, leading scorer for NC State. That's a 2. Frank Howard.
Frank Howard showing a lot of confidence shooting the basketball here. Off the dribble, off the pass, whatever it may be. And his scoring now at 10 points is the only double-figure member of the Orange in this game.
Howard just 3 combined points in his last 2 games for the Orange. That rattles out to Walker. 1 dribble and a basket.
Offensive rebounding is a recipe for success for the Wolfpack. Wyatt Walker, one of the best in the league in doing so.
Walker, the transfer from Samford, and Howard has the response with a 3. He's up to 13 points.
And all the people I've talked to around the Syracuse basketball program, because of my relationship with Frank Howard, have said, Corey, you got to get your boy playing better. And he's doing it here right now. Second half off to a great start for Frank Howard, knocking down his first 2 shots.
Bryce really favoring that leg, but did.
It's a struggle for Bryce to get back. If I'm Syracuse right now, although Howard has it going, I may look at an opportunity for Ty's battle with Bryce trying to guard him on the perimeter.
He checked for Howard. This one's too strong.
C.J. Bryce, I'm honestly surprised the officials haven't stopped this, watching him run around.
Beverly got fouled by Hughes on the three-point attempt.
And we have to, mention Eric Lockett and Blake Harris. Neither of those guys with NC State on the bench tonight, unavailable. And C.J. Bryce now running around Gimpy. Devin Daniels at the table. Not sure if he's coming in for Bryce, but you can tell Bryce definitely favoring that ankle. You see C.J. Bryce get to the rim, but watch afterwards. Having a difficult time running back down the floor, and he will take an exit. Right now, I'm sure to seek a little treatment on the sideline. But the fact that he did stay on the floor that long, I'm sure we'll see him back in the game. But have to question how effective he'll be, especially on the defensive end of the floor.
16 points now for Braxton Beverly. Made all 3 of the free throw attempts. So Beverly, who had 17 points in their most recent game, a win on the road at Pittsburgh that stopped a 3-game losing streak for NC State as Brissett misfires. Sidibe offensive glass. Hughes lost it on the way up. Brissett saves it in the corner, trying to get away from Daniels. Well defended by Daniels, and the shot was short.
That was, and I'm not sure if O'Shea Brissett realized he still had time on the shot clock. But I can tell you right now, Braxton Beverly doesn't care what the shot clock says. When he's open, he's going to let it fly. His second 3 of the second half. Braxton Beverly is feeling it here in Raleigh. Braxton Beverly came into the game shooting 9 of 14 in his last 2 from beyond the three-point arc. 4 for 7 already here in this one as he continues to put pressure on the Syracuse defense to find him in transition. And Braxton Beverly shooting a hot basketball for the Wolfpack right now.
An 8-0 run for NC State. 19 points for Beverly to lead everybody on the floor at PNC Arena. Howard tried to go behind the back. Dorn was ready for it. Pass Dolajai as he lays it in.
I'm pretty certain that there will be a substitute for Frank Howard after that possession. Jim Boeheim showing tremendous restraint right now and giving his senior an opportunity to make up for that play.
Hughes was driving. Walker hit the deck.
Frank Howard shooting the basketball well, but the turnovers have gotten him in trouble. A little too much mustard on that hot dog turns into a bucket for Torin Dorn.
Well, Frank Howard tried to get fancy, and it didn't work out here, Corey.
Well, this has been the struggle recently for Frank Howard. 4 turnovers in this game thus far with 0 assists. He's shooting the basketball well, but that's not a play that you make as a senior. And fortunate that Jim Boeheim has allowed him to stay in the game. He was in and out during the first half, but Boeheim going to stick with his veteran. Frank Howard has to make sure that pays off for the coach.
Sidibe got the offensive board and ran into Walker, who fouled him. It's a 3rd on Walker. Walker also has 8 points, well, 6 points rather, and 8 rebounds. Just 42% of the season from the line for Barama Sidibe.
And that's one of the areas that we haven't talked about with Syracuse and why they're struggling. They're now 7 for 15 from the free throw line and giving up opportunities at the stripe. Jim Boeheim, not much he can say about that one. And it goes back when you were in school at Syracuse, the old days of Syracuse being great teams, but horrible free throw shooting teams.
You're going way back now. Late 80s, early 90s.
Orange had cut the lead to just one. NC State went on a 10-0 run. A lot of those points coming off the fingertips of Braxton Beverly. He's got 4 made threes. This time he gives it up. Funderburk put the shoulder down. Second effort got tangled up with Sidibe. And the foul goes against 34 in Orange.
Jim Boeheim active on the sideline, trying to encourage his team, and then and again making the gesture of an offensive foul where Funderburk definitely lowered the shoulder into Dolezaj. And this time he lowered the boom on Dolezaj off of another beautiful interior pass from the Wolfpack.
Daniels to Funderburk, collaborating for the jam. Largest lead of the game, NC State. Brissett thought about 3. Hughes wide of the mark. Daniels, full speed, Dorn, follow tip, NC State. 6 points, Torin Dorn. Dolezaj almost lost it.
And you see the energy level on the defensive end of the floor for NC State, how it picks up when the offense is going so well. A 14-0 run right now for the Wolfpack. It's Howard who shot the ball extremely well, but a lot of pressure.
Traveling against Johnson off the long rebound.
Well, NC State in the midst of a 14-0 run, sharing the basketball very well. Beverly finding Funderburk to the rim, and then Daniels off the miss. Torin Dorn able to come up with another offensive rebound. And second chance opportunity for NC State as Buddy Boeheim now enters the game for Elijah Hughes.
Over 4 minutes now for the Orange without scoring. Boeheim is 0 for 2 from the floor, 2 3-point attempts. Z comes back in. Tight defense from Johnson on Boeheim. Shot clock at 10. Howard's open, lining up a 3, and he held that finish for an extra beat.
And now 8 second half points for Frank Howard. The dunk by Sidibe, but that's it for Syracuse. Tyus Battle still unable to get involved in the offense. O'Shea Brissett doing very little on the offensive end of the floor. And under distress, 3-pointers by Franklin Howard really has been the only offense for the Orange thus far here in the second half. On the other side, it's been just great ball movement. NC State with 12 assists from 7 different players thus far.
Our road to the tournament brought to you by the Honda dealers of the Carolinas. Corey, you referenced those wins against Auburn and Clemson with Beverly's last-second buzzer beater.
I'm not going to agree with the bad loss versus Virginia Tech. I think it looks worse because of the 24 points, but Virginia Tech at the time was a top 15 team. Although they're playing without Justin Robinson, it's still a very good team and a team that will be in the field in the upper echelon of the ACC. The Wake Forest loss, that's a bad loss for NC State, but NC State had a very good non-conference schedule. A win at home over Auburn, a very good SEC team. I think they're firm with their chances in the NCAA tournament. They just have to continue to pick up quality ACC wins.
Another jam for Funderburk and 6 points. And Funderburk went up off the fake and came down on Dolezaj on the baseline.
Now, this is one that I honestly believe that they could go check, but it's a basketball play. Funderburk gets caught in the air, and so in order to not allow Dolezaj to get a bucket, he comes down on top of him to prevent the shot. But I agree with the officials going over to the monitor, checking this one out, because It did look much worse probably than it was. And we could see a flagrant one awarded, but I do think that was a basketball play, just simply not allowing Dolezaj to be able to go up and score that. And also, Funderburk is bracing himself, because if he doesn't come down on Dolezaj this way, he's going to take a terrible fall.
It's the third personal on DJ Funderburk, who went for the fake from Dolezaj. The officials took a look at the monitor, and they've made their assessment. They came right over to Corey Alexander for the update.
And Doug Sermons let me know they are going to upgrade that from a common foul to a flagrant one. And I think that's warranted, but I'm just glad it wasn't a flagrant 2 ejection, because it was excessive, but it still was a basketball play. Great job by the officials. And again, Funderburk more so was bracing himself. He didn't want Dolezaj to be able to get the bucket. Understandably so, but he was more so bracing himself, because if he doesn't, he's going to do a flip over the top of Dolezaj.
Corey, you referenced free throw shooting for the Orange. They are 14th in the conference as a team, 69% on the season. But Dolezaj makes them both.
Well, and you leave so many points on the board when you struggle at the free throw line, especially in a scenario where you work so hard to get an opportunity at the rim, unable to finish it, but you get fouled to get to the free throw line. When you walk away from that possession with 0 points, and we've seen that a number of times in this game, and that is how Syracuse really dug a hole for themselves in the first half.
6 points for Dolezaj, trying to add to the total. Funderburk defended the shot from Dolezaj. Just the 12th all-time meeting between the programs. Corey mentioned earlier in the broadcast, Syracuse has never lost at PNC Arena. Funderburk in tight whistle and foul against Syracuse. Syracuse 3-0 here at PNC Arena.
And just great interior passing once again. Torn Dorn finding Funderburk. And we watched NC State work on this repeatedly at shoot-around this morning. And Kevin Keats said that Torn Dorn would be the guy that started in there. Wanted to give him a chance because of his ability to make shots. Didn't think that he was the greatest passer, but Dorn has shown his coach tonight that he's capable of making plays inside that zone.
Funderburk at the line made all 6 of his free throw attempts in the win at Pittsburgh and had 12 points. And he's now up to 8 points for the ball game, 53-39, after leading by 3 at halftime for NC State. Brissett trying to force his way. Correction. Battle. Up top to Dolezaj. Howard tried to set him up. Never got control of the basketball.
Well, Dolezaj had an easy layup off of the lob. Just chose to bring it down and dribble the basketball, forcing another turnover for the Orange.
Johnson off the Funderburk screen. Got caught in the air.
And it's a turnover. But at the end of the day, if you're going to turn it over, throw it out of bounds. Don't give Syracuse an opportunity to get out in transition. Kevin Keats, he doesn't agree with me. He's saying don't turn it over altogether.
Turnover number 16 of the game for NC State.
But NC State is one of the rare teams that can win games with 16 and 20 turnovers, because they force so many turnovers on the other end of the floor.
Brissett and his shot deflected. Dorn running the field. Brissett got back to block it off the backboard.
Great hustle by O'Shea Brissett, not giving up. These two guys going back and forth, blocking each other's shots. I believe Brissett took that one personally.
Boeheim trying to get free. Boeheim misses the three-pointer. Dolezaj gets it back to Boeheim. Dolezaj out of the corner, and he lays it in for the Orange. Marek Dolezaj with 8 points.
But one thing I will say, NC State is making it very difficult for Syracuse to score in the half court. That's an improvement for the Wolfpack. They're giving up 47% to opponents, and the opponents are on the field goal percentage. So right now doing a much better job in their defense in the half court. Syracuse not giving in. O'Shea Brissett getting back defensively, which leads to Mark Dolezaj finishing at the rim. The Wolfpack still lead by 12.
It's bow time, so that means we're checking the Bojangles fan of the game. We got a shark attack inside PNC Arena.
Is that a wolf shark or a shark wolf?
I'm being told it's left shark.
Okay. Well, right now, Ty's Battle 4 fouls, and he goes to sit, which is very rare for Battle in ACC play. Always one of the top minutes per game players in the league. And now 4 fouls with close to 11 minutes remaining in this one. Brissett as well sitting, so 2 of the stars for Jim Boeheim's group along the side with him, and only 7 points combined from those 2 players. Difficult to win, especially on the road, when your 2 best players struggling from the field.
Dorn now with 8 points. Battle represents almost 18 points per game, sitting on that bench, poked away, and to Dorn. Helms fenced in by the double team, stepped right on through. How about over 66% shooting in the second half for NC State?
Well, NC State is moving the basketball very well. Turnover on that possession, 17th of the game, but 13 assists. And a lot of it, great ball movement inside the zone. And when you look at this game and you say, okay, well, NC State had the stretch where they struggled to handle the basketball at the end of the first half, where Syracuse was able to make an 11-0 run. Other than that, turnovers really haven't hurt them in this game. So even though that 17 is a very high number compared to 10 for Syracuse, NC State's shooting has been able to take care of that.
10:20 to go in our second half of play on Raycom Sports. Tom Wormy, Corey Alexander, our outstanding production crew with you from Raleigh. Boeheim not yet into the box score for the Orange. Substantial minutes tonight for Sidibe. Angular rebound off the Howard miss. Dolezaj leaps for it and sets up Boeheim for 3.
And Boeheim just hasn't been able to find the range, but give NC State credit. They know what he does well. Got a wide open look on that one, but everything else has been contested. And that makes, you know, when you get the wide open ones, you're pressing just a little bit more, especially when you haven't made a 3 in this game.
Boeheim is 0 for 4 from beyond 20 feet. 9 inches away from the baseline. It's Funderburk for NC State. He's into double digits with 10.
And Braxton Beverly doing a great job taking away the advanced pass on the sideline, going over and giving Jim Boeheim a hug. Boeheim reciprocated, although the way Beverly shot the basketball, I'm sure he didn't really want to hug Braxton, but was kind of forced to at that moment.
12 times this season, Beverly to double-digit scoring. That's Dolezaj.
And a nice pass by Elijah Hughes on the slip by Dolezaj. NC State's defense jumping out on the screen and roll, giving Dolezaj an easy opportunity. Right now, no one recognizing Funderburk under the basket.
Fouled by Sidibe.
And Dolezaj was playing so high on the backside of the zone. And again, a lot of it has to do with the fact of the shooting of NC State. Braxton Beverly, and that's actually Daniels, but they just forgot all about Funderburk on the backside. And I know the zone from Syracuse is normally extended, but that's a bit extreme.
5 for 5 from the line for Funderburk. $12 points now. DJ Funderburk, redshirt sophomore from Cleveland, Ohio. Dolezaj's pass was in no man's land, but picked up by Sidibe.
Right now, Dolezaj just has to find a way to get to the block. If Braxton Beverly's going to be guarding him, just throw the ball over the top. Right now, if you look underneath, just throw the ball up in the air and allow Dolezaj to jump up and catch it and lay it in over top of Braxton Beverly.
First on Daniels.
If NC State's going to switch screen and rolls and put Braxton Beverly in a position where he's going to be guarding Mark Dolezal-Sidibe on the block. They just pretty much have to throw the ball over his head and allow those guys to finish.
Shot clock at 10 for the Orange. Boeheim tries from closer in and misses again. Daniels. Strong drive from Daniels. He's earned a couple of free throws.
And Jim Boeheim can't watch any longer. Tyus Battle now up at the scorer's table. Going to try to play the remaining 8:16 of this game with 4 fouls, as well as Pascal Chukwu, who started the game, but we haven't seen much of him ever since, as well as Brissett. So Jim Boeheim recognizing that this is getting out of hand. Got to go back with 3 starters to try to make a run at the end of this game.
So Battle comes back in. Sidibe out with the 4 personal fouls. That put Daniels at the free throw line. Only 6 minutes played in the game for Pascal Chukwu for the Orange. And Daniels is 3 for 3 from the foul line and 5 points.
And right now, I would go screen and roll to get Braxton Beverly involved. And if he switches on one of the bigs, just throw it out. Probably Brissett. Look at Brissett now has Braxton Beverly guarding him. There's no reason he should be floating on the perimeter.
Howard. Brissett. Ball went out of bounds. Will stay with the Orange. There's 5 on the shot clock. There is a timeout on the court, and we will be back after a word from your local ACC station. Here's a look at our Toyota game summary. For summaries of other ACC games, go to the ACC.com.
And NC State has overcome the 17 turnovers by scoring 24 points in the paint. Great passing versus the Syracuse zone. And you look at the field goal percentage, 9 for 13 in the second half for the Wolfpack, 6 for 21 for Syracuse. Braxton Beverly shooting a hot basketball once again here on his home court.
Thunderbird with 10 in the second half. Beverly with 9 points in the second half to lead the way. That's Howard on a 3-pointer that the Orange desperately needed. He's up to 19 points.
And he has been the offense for Syracuse tonight. He's had a couple of turnovers, ill-advised plays, but outside of that, Frank Howard has really been the only offense that the Orange has been able to rely on.
5 3-pointers for Howard now. You saw that Miami score go by. They beat Clemson. Zach Johnson, a last-second shot by Johnson, the winning margin as Miami defeats the Clemson Tigers.
And Clemson, who have been on a 4-game win streak, playing great basketball. That's a tough loss. I honestly feel as though they had the impression of getting back to 500, trying to get this 6-6 in ACC play at Miami as Tyus Battle finds Chukwu over the top for a nice play. But right now, a 13-point game. Syracuse with a couple baskets, starting to try to cut into this lead, similar to what happened in the end of the first half off of NC State turnovers. We'll see if NC State can handle the basketball. And now, again, this is the area where we've seen this, a 7-0 run from the Orange. But Wormy, this is exactly what we saw at the end of the first half. Kevin Keats not going to allow it to continue, calling the timeout.
Orange went on an 11-0 run at the end of the first half to cut it to 3. It's now an 11-point game.
And Tyus Battle attacking the paint, recognizing Chukwu over the top, is able to finish. And then in transition, we talked about this in our progressive innovative play earlier. Tyus Battle getting out in transition, able to finish over the top of the defense.
7 points now for Tyus Battle. That is still well below his season average of almost 18 points per game and 5th best in the conference. Battle twice this season has gone over 30 points in a win at Boston College and in the giant upset at Duke. He had 32, the season high in overtime as the Orange beat the Blue Devils.
And right now, if you're an ACC fan, or especially an ACC player, and you're down 18 points at this part of the game, it means nothing. After what we saw last night, that basically means, okay, now we can start playing and pick this thing up and see if we can walk away with a road win, similar to what Duke did in Louisville just last night.
Duke was 23 points down, 10 minutes to go in regulation, and won it in regulation. Shot clock down to 4. short from the corner.
And you see who's back in the game, Wormy, C.J. Bryce, and you can tell that ankle's not 100%. And Markel Johnson on his way to the scorer's table. The guys that Kevin Keats trusts the most at this point headed back into the game as this lead has been cut into by the Orange.
Fight for the loose ball. Beverly with Dorn for the jam. Torrin Dorn. Double figures, 9 of his last 11 games, 10 points. Torrin Dorn.
And a much-needed basket by the Wolfpack. Again, a turnover, getting out in transition and able to score.
Howard misses for the Orange.
But NC State off of a loose ball rebound. Devin Daniels getting on the floor and getting into the hands of Braxton Beverly. Torrin Dorn running with them. And the slam to put the lead back to 13. Great job turning defense into offense from the Wolfpack. And now we see Syracuse with their full court pressure. And of course, this is one of the things that Jim Boeheim only brings out late in games when they're down. But it's very effective. But no need to foul if you mark Dolezaj 40 feet from the basket.
That's a 17 foul.
Second on Dolezaj. Bonus situation for NC State. The sophomore, Braxton Beverly, averages about 10 points per game. But having a big night. He's up to 20 points as Walker comes in. Dorn is getting to double digits as well. Funderburk gets a nice ovation as he heads back to the bench.
Beverly
stays perfect there.
9 for 9 at the free throw line. And we talked about Syracuse and where they struggled at the line during this game. And, you know, coaches look at 3 things primarily when they lose games: offensive rebounds, turnovers, and free throws. And right now, NC State playing very well in 2 of those areas, and their turnovers really haven't hurt them.
Shot clock at 9 for Tyus Battle. 7 points in the game for Battle. Got caught in midair, lost the handle. He's on his back. Daniels is bending the rim.
Wormy, is it cliche to say that basketball is a game of runs? Okay, Frank. Frank taking it to the bank.
That's a 2-point basket. Yes,
okay. Just make sure you
actually rhyming is more cliche than saying it's a game of runs.
Well, you think about it, NC State answered a 7-0 run from Syracuse with a 6-0 run of its own until that basket. But now Torrin Dorn finding his spot in the middle of that zone once again. In the second half shooting for NC State, 12 of 17. Syracuse actually has 10 more field goal attempts because of turnovers by NC State, yet State's still making more shots.
Howard misses there. Braxton Beverly tonight has 21 points, Corey. That ties his career high, which he set against North Carolina, making 5 3-pointers. Dorn. Out of bounds. Orange basketball. A long night for Jim Boeheim. They had cut the lead to 1, but Battle loses the handle. NC State goes the other way with the dunk from Daniels.
ACC basketball is being brought to you by Food Lion, official supermarket of the ACC. By New York Life. With the right guidance, everyone can be good at life. By Coyote Tractor. And by your local Toyota dealers. Toyota, let's go places.
Back in Raleigh, it was a 3-point halftime lead for NC State, but the Pack has controlled most of the second half, and that includes an early second half 14-0 run to build their lead. Johnson got a piece of that one, ends up with carry. Drives into the lane, offensive foul as Walker was there to absorb the contact.
And Jim Boeheim going with Jalen Carey and Buddy Boeheim, both Frank Howard and Tyus Battle on the bench. Carey getting into the paint, and Wyatt Walker stepping up, taking the charge.
Tyus Battle on the bench with 7 points. Heads up. Right close to our broadcast position.
O'Shea is my guy, but at 6'8", 200, however much he weighs, I was moving. I was getting out of the way.
I was diving in front of you just to
okay. In that case,
absorb the contact.
Listen, I am not a charge taker. That was never part of my game.
We're looking in the Virginia record books right now for charges taken. His name is not coming up.
I tell you what, I took a couple, but they were accidental. It was not intentional. It's just somebody just happened to run me over.
Torin Dorn, his second half performance, not accidental. 12 points in the second half, just 2 in the first half for Dorn.
And Torin Dorn, in my opinion, is the guy that really exemplifies what Kevin Keatts wants out of this program. Undersized, but huge heart, plays hard every possession, and gives Keatts everything he could ask for on both ends of the floor.
Corey's also got a double-double tonight for Torin Dorn, his 5th of the season, 14th of his career. Just 2.5 minutes to go now for NC State and Syracuse.
You know, and congrats to Torin Dorn, who's actually scored over 1,000 points in the NC State uniform. Of course, played his freshman year at Charlotte, but 1,000-point score. And add 2 more to whatever that total is as a member of the Wolfpack.
16 points, 11 rebounds. It's now 1,106 points in an NC State uniform.
So I was waiting on you to come with that.
I did some very quick tabulations.
I just threw that out there. I was waiting on you to come back with the actual number.
He has put on a show from the mid-range for Torin Dorn. He grabs it, turns around, and if he's free, he shoots that basketball.
And that's where you really have to be able to score points versus Syracuse. They extend that zone so far. Again, everyone feels as though you have to make threes against the Syracuse zone, which definitely helps. But you can take 2s and also keep them out of transition by making those baskets in there. Torin Dorn's done a great job of that. We talked about the man in the middle is the 4 keys to the game, and Torin Dorn has been that guy. 16 points, 11 rebounds. He's been in the middle of everything on both ends of the floor.
NC State's win on Saturday at Pittsburgh stopped the 3-game losing streak and losses against Virginia, Virginia Tech, and on the road at North Carolina. But this will be 2 in a row now for NC State, and they are going back on the road Saturday at Duke for the Wolfpack. The team they defeated at home last year. Also in 2017, NC State won at Duke, 84-82. Their first win there since 1995. Carey hopping to the basket. Johnson ended up with the basketball, but a foul on Markel Johnson. Our performance of the game brought to you by your local Chevy dealers. It is Braxton Beverly. He's tied his career high and connected on 4 3-point baskets, perfect from the line.
The only problem with Braxton Beverly right now is that his beard is much lower than it is in the other pitcher, where he has the thicker beard. I like Braxton with the thicker beard. You know, I mean, it's more of a Wolfpack look when he has the thick beard compared to the light one here.
17 points at Pittsburgh, 21 tonight. Should just keep growing that beard. Let it go until we get down the road to Charlotte, Spectrum Center, and the New York Life ACC tournament.
He keeps shooting the basketball like this. No way he's shaving. He'll have the beard back by the time we get to Charlotte for the tournament.
He's made 4 threes tonight. That's 119 in his career at NC State. The sophomore. Came into the game in his last 2 shooting 64% with 9 made threes, as you has referenced earlier in the game, Corey. They go for the alley-oop for Dorn. It's off the mark. Final 55 seconds. Just a 3-point game at halftime. Boeheim on the run. First basket of the night, Buddy Boeheim.
And Tom, Syracuse made 5 3-pointers in this game, 5 for 24. All 5 3-point field goals made by Frank Howard. No other member of the Orange was able to make a 3.
Now, Boeheim had been 48% three-point shooting in ACC play, but he comes up empty from beyond the arc tonight for the Orange.
I believe we got some blood on Markel Johnson. A quick substitute. You know, in NC State, one of the very few teams nationally that doesn't have reserves to put in blowouts. They only have 10 players on their roster. And so their guys have to play the whole game. It's not as though they can get the celebration and the standing ovation from the crowd by checking out of the game, but they'll get it anyway here at PNC Arena after a great performance, especially on the defensive end by the Wolfpack.
Beverly trying to extend the range.
Well, that was 80s night, so that was his Derek Wittenberg impression for Torin Dorn. Dorn just didn't jump for the lob.
We're not going to hit the 80s on the scoreboard, but on 80s night, it's going to be a win for NC State. Their 18th win of the season. They evened their conference record at 6-6 with 0.6 on the clock. 73-58 is the final count. For highlights and must-see moments from this game and others, check out theACC.com. Next telecast on Raycom Sports, Saturday noon Eastern, number 8 North Carolina at Wake Forest. You've been watching coverage of Atlantic Coast Conference basketball on the ACC Network, an exclusive production of Raycom Sports. 73-58, the Pack over the Orange.